You may recall then, Stormy, back when the good folks in our brain trust here in Washington State decided that some rather overt, detailed sex ed was necessary for some reason for all of our students, and pretty much went ballistic for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And yet, despite the sincere and loud protests, it became the law of the land in our state. Well, we at least have the vehicle to push back in Washington. It was a Senate Bill, 5395? And so folks decided to push back. And one of them's on the phone with us right now. Mindy Wirth is, I guess she's the name that's kind of attached to Referendum 90. If I read this right, it wasn't that long ago, March 13th or something like that, that she filed the paperwork for that. So let's bring her on the phone here.
Yeah.
Mindy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mindy.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah.
Happy to do it. You are a mom yourself. A lot of parents who are mostly concerned about this, obviously. At what level of age and development should their children be exposed to certain ideas, and should they even be exposed to some of those ideas by way of the public school system? So that's sort of my interpretation, but you're the source. So what's driving you here?
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know, I've got myself 3 kids in school. My youngest is in 1st grade. And when we're talking about comprehensive sex education starting in kindergarten, and I think back to what he was doing last year, he was learning his numbers and how to write his name and still taking naps. And, you know, I think a lot of parents are saying, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we starting this so young? And why is this coming down as a mandate from Olympia? This is the only curriculum in the state of Washington that is mandated. We're not mandating math, science, English. No other subject has a mandate coming from Olympia other than this.
Well, do you have your suspicions as to why? Because I do.
I think there's a lot of suspicions on this one, but yeah, there's purely an agenda driving this, and you know, I think people in Washington are reasonable. We're intelligent. We do have sex education throughout most of the state as it is, anyways. So it's not like we're missing something, or you know, there was this big gap that needed to be filled. So you know, I think a lot of people are justifiably upset about this, and thankfully, despite the lockdown, that passion and you know, outrage on this issue has not died down.
Yeah, I guess I'm just going to throw this in there. I think with given Washington State's past activities, I think the sooner they can plant ideas of the general acceptability of same-sex relationships and alternate type relationships.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said that.
The better. I think they think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And so if you're not that way, maybe you will be if we start you in kindergarten.
Yeah, because I think when you say the agenda, people are like, what's the agenda? That's it right there, right? Yeah.
I think it's the mainstreaming of that which has never been the mainstream. But that's just me, Mindy. You want to come in on that, or do you want to talk about process?
Well,
getting signed up.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about process because we have such a short window. So myself and a group of citizens went down to Olympia the day after the session ended, which was March 13th, and right before we started getting into this idea of a lockdown in the state, and filed the paperwork for Referendum 90. Now, by our Constitution, we have a very short period of time to qualify a referendum for the ballot, which means we had 90 days from the end of session to qualify with over 130,000 signatures. So that puts us at June 10th as a deadline to the Secretary of State. And we are working really hard, right? Because we have a lockdown going on, and you know, all over the state, things are just different. We don't have people attending events. People are afraid to go to the grocery store, and we're trying to collect a lot of signatures. So.
You know, Mindy, a good friend of mine is doing the same thing. Her name is Heather McKenzie. She's doing it. She lives up in Packwood. I don't know if you know Heather McKenzie, but she is very active, and she has a Facebook post up today that says, A day and a half ago, the verified count was 62,000. This morning, it had gone up to 73,000 signatures. You need 130,000, right? Is 73 where we are at this point?
73 is what we announced yesterday. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And, typically, I mean, you guys have been involved in these in the past, referendum campaigns or initiative campaigns, we tend to see a big flurry towards the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, we are coming into the last 3 weeks of this effort. So, we hope that those numbers remain true. We see another 50% come in, but it's really going to take everybody getting involved, getting a petition, signing it. If you feel comfortable reaching out to neighbors or folks from your church, please do. Please collect signatures.
Mindy, you talked about drive-up signing kind of things that are taking place in some places. Do we know of any on this side of the state?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's 2 today in Yakima. So one starts at about 10:30 at Image Point, and that'll run until about 3. And then at the Cross Church from 3 to 6, there are 2 different signings going on in Yakima. And we actually have a website that has a number of these drive-through signing events on it. And so people can go there if they don't see one listed. There's other groups that are posting drive-through events constantly, so we're always trying to grab those events and put them on our webpage so people can see them. But, if your listeners don't find an event that's nearby or the time doesn't work, if they go to our website, parentsforsafeschools.com, we will mail them a petition.
Okay, parents
for safe schools.
For safeschools.com. Excellent.
Well, look, this kind of caught everybody jaw-droppingly by surprise in a way. I guess maybe we shouldn't be surprised given Washington State and some of the strange things that our legislators have done. But this is one of those things that I think parents are just, we can't let this stand. And, yeah, it may be difficult given the COVID lockdown to get the signatures. And so it would be understandable if this thing didn't get there, but the fact that you're out and doing it, I would imagine we'd take another run if we don't. But let's not put ourselves in that position. Let's get it on the ballot now while we can.
Let's do it. This is going to be historical. If we qualify this measure, it will truly be historical, and I think we can do it. We have the passion. We have the will. It's just getting the word out. There's a lot of people in Washington that have no idea this is going on.
Yeah, that's right.
But when they hear about it, it is very rare that somebody says, no, I don't want to sign. And mostly it's because we don't like the idea of local control being taken away. This is a top issue for people.
Well, I was going to ask you, okay, I'm all for it. I'm just going to ask you, the referendum will cancel this type of teaching, right?
The referendum, it'll put.
Yeah, I guess the question is, what replaces it? I mean, if we've got parents out there that are like, will we have any sex ed in schools? Do you want to see that in schools, or is that up to parents?
Oh, that's a great question. So, right now we have, 295 independent school districts in Washington State, most of which already teach reproductive health and sex education. So, for the majority of pretty much every school district, nothing is going to change. Things are going to continue as they do. And schools can choose to adopt the curriculum that meets the needs of their local community, and that's what we think is most important. Right now, the 2 biggest curricula that are being pushed as part of this effort are not even translated into Spanish. So, for parents to review the curriculum, first of all, and then have this idea of the ability to opt out, well, number one, they have to be able to read English. And this is a pretty big obstacle when you consider that over 130,000 of our students in Washington State do not speak English as a first language, which tells you that there's a large number of parents behind that also don't speak English. And we're not giving these families a true choice.
That's an excellent point, Mindy.
That's right.
An excellent point. And we know that, that's already offered in the local districts. I personally have had to take remedial classes several times. That's a joke. Okay, moving on. The point being, your timing, there's frustration right now about government overreach. There's frustration right now about lack of local control on our lives. If ever there was a time to get people willing to sign something about losing our local control, this would be it. psychologically and emotionally. It's just the practicality is the problem. So we do have drive-through opportunities. We're going to send people to your website. We're going to put this on our website and our Facebook page, and we're going to get this out and around to as many folks as possible.
Good.
And we hope that you have success with this, and that all of Washington will get a chance to have a true say on this, because it seemed like it was just kind of shoved through. So best of good luck to you, Mindy Wirth, and we'd like to get an update from you a little later on, if we could, a week and a half from now or so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm happy to come back anytime, and thank you again for having me on today.